Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel where we explore the world of writing compositions. If you are preparing for exams or just looking to improve your writing skills, you have come to the right place. Today, we are diving into the world of previous year questions from ICSE board, where we will be taking a closer look at some of the most challenging and thought-provoking compositions from past exams. So, whether you are a student, teacher, or just a passionate writer, get ready to brush up on your writing skills and dive into a world of creative expression. Let's get started. Our first question is, imagine a situation where a child runs away from home but later returns. Why did he or she come back? Write an original short story entitled Finding My Way Home. It was a hot summer day, and I was feeling suffocated in my home. I had been arguing with my parents for what I felt like hours about things that didn't matter. In a moment of frustration, I packed the bag and left my house, not knowing where I was going or what I was looking for. As I walked, I realized that the freedom I thought I wanted was just an illusion. I was lost and alone, with no one to turn to for help. The city was loud and unfamiliar, and the people around me seemed cold and uncaring. I felt scared and vulnerable. Hours passed, and the sun began to set. I was tired, hungry, and thirsty. I started to regret my decision to leave home and longed for the comfort of my family. Suddenly, I remembered something my mother had told me when I was a child. She said, no matter where you go, my love will always find you and bring you back home. With that thought in mind, I started to retrace my steps back to my house. It was a long journey and I made many mistakes along the way, but I never gave up. I was determined to find my way back home. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I saw my house in the distance. My heart swelled with emotion as I ran to my front door and burst into the arms of my waiting family. My mother hugged me tight and whispered, I told you my love would bring you back home. That moment changed me forever. I learned that home is not just a place, but a feeling of love, comfort, and safety. I realized that my family was the most important thing in my life and that I was lucky to have them. From that day forward, I made a promise to never take my family for granted again. I would always remember that no matter where I went, my way back home was just a few steps away. In the end, I found that the things I was searching for were right there in front of me all alone. All I had to do was follow my heart and it would lead me back home. Children, there's another sample for the same essay. Whichever you would like to write, you can take that for your reference. Here we start. I was tired of the same arguments, tired of the same looks, and tired of the same walls. I had to get away. I had to escape. So I left my home in search of a new life, hoping that I could find some peace. I wandered the streets of my town, feeling lost and alone. Everywhere I looked, there were people who were just like me, who were struggling to make ends meet and find their place in the world. I wanted to help them, to show them that there was a way out, but I couldn't. I was too afraid and too lost to do anything. I kept walking, never looking back. I wanted to forget my past and start a new life. But no matter how far I went, I couldn't forget my parents or my home. Everywhere I went, I was haunted by the memories of what I had left behind. Eventually, after weeks of walking, I reached the edge of town. I was exhausted and scared, so I decided to take a break and think about what I was going to do next. That's when I looked up at the night sky and saw a bright star in the distance. In that moment, I realized that it was the same star my parents used to point out to me every night when I was younger. The star was a reminder of home and of my family. It was a reminder that even though I had left, I was still connected to them in some way. I realized that no matter where I went, I would never forget them or the love they had for me. In that moment, I knew I was ready to go back home. I was ready to face my fears and my doubts and to make things right with my parents. So I turned around and started walking back towards my home. When I arrived home, my parents were waiting for me. We talked and I explained why I had left. We both cried and apologized for the things we had said and done. We made a promise that no matter what happened, we would always love each other and find our way back home. Since then, I have been trying to make up for the time I spent away. I focus on my studies and help out around the house more. I have also decided to start volunteering in my town to help people who are struggling, just like I did. Finding my way home wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I'm grateful for the love and support of my family and for the stars that reminded me of home. Now I can focus on finding my place in the world, knowing that I always have a home to come back to. Here, there is another sample for the same conversation. Once upon a time, there was a child named Timmy who lived in a small town. Timmy was feeling neglected by his parents and often felt like no one cared about him. So one day, he decided to run away from home and see the world on his own. He traveled for days with no specific destination in mind. He met many people along the way. Some were kind to him and others were not. Timmy realized that the world was not as beautiful as he thought it would be. He was lost, hungry, and scared. He missed his parents and wanted to go back home, but he did not know how to get there. One day, Timmy met an old man who asked him about his journey. Timmy told him about his problem and how he wanted to go back home but didn't know how. The old man listened to Timmy's story and told him that the most important thing in life is to be surrounded by the people who love you. The old man also gave Timmy a map and showed him the way back home. Timmy followed the map and after a few days of walking, he finally saw the familiar sights of his hometown. He ran to his house and was greeted by his parents with open arms. They hugged him tightly and told him how much they loved him. Timmy realized that there was no place like home and that his parents truly cared about him. In conclusion, Timmy's journey taught him that home is where the heart is. No matter how far we travel or he traveled, he couldn't find happiness without the love and support of his family. He learned to appreciate the people who loved him and to never take them for granted. From that day on, Timmy never ran away from home again and made sure to tell his parents how much he loved them.